Hey guys, it's Surya and today is Monday, which means it's time for another tutorial. Today I'm teaching you how to solve the Skewb in detail. This is actually a shape modification of the Pyraminx, but you really don't need to know how to solve the Pyraminx in order to do this. And for this you don't need cube notations either, it's just one algorithm. I'll explain that in a minute. So hope you enjoy the video. So at first glance this Skewb looks really confusing. I mean, if you're like 90% of the people or so, which includes me by the way, you probably bought this thinking that these corners rotate and it would therefore be really easy to solve them. The sad thing is they don't. This stuff moves in a really weird way instead. So that's kind of a bummer. So it can be really confusing. So let's just understand how this works. So let's just try to turn one side and let's just analyze what happens. So we notice that when this happens, we see that these three move very easily, but this one does not. It stays still. It just rotates in its own place. These move, of course, but these don't. Now let's just analyze how these two work relative to each other. Let's move this. They're both the same. Both the same. So they're both basically unaffected by any moves. They both stay right next to each other. So this would mean that these are technically false centers or false corners. I get confused between the terminology. But basically these four never move relative to each other. And these four, which are the other corners, never move relative to each other. So in that respect, it's actually really similar to the Pyraminx. I mean, this is actually a shape mod of the Pyraminx, a shape modification. But in order to learn the Skewb, you really don't need to learn the Pyraminx. It's not necessary, but if you want, you can still check out my video on that. So now that we know that, we can get into how to solve this. Now, the official cubing notations involve holding the cube like this being front, this being right, and so on. This is actually back, this would be right, and so on. But for the beginners method tutorial that I'm teaching today, you don't need to know any of that. You don't need to know cube notations at all. You just need to know one algorithm and that's it. You just use that to solve the entire cube. So here's how it goes. You go on any side. It's called the sledgehammer, by the way. You just move this side down like this. You rotate about this corner. Move this down. Now you rotate about this corner. Move this down. Now you rotate on this corner. Move this up. And move this back up. Rotate on this corner. That's literally it. That's all you need to know in order to do the entire Skewb. Of course, you need to do it in different ways and whatnot, but that's all you need to know. You can just take your time, do it slowly, but that's basically the algorithm you need to know. So now that we know that, let's get into how to solve it. So the Skewb looks pretty badly jumbled. Here it is. It's actually not that difficult to jumble it, just make like a few random moves and you get it. So now we need to start with the first layer. Now, even though these centers are technically not centers, we'll just use them. We basically build a side around it. So we just need to solve these four corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we just do that by bringing the pieces in. Now, the good thing about this is that whenever we rotate this, we move 3 pieces. We affect them 3 times. So each time we rotate any side thrice, we come back to the same situation. So we can just use that to our advantage, try to solve some sides. Now, if we want this piece to get there, this seems to be no way to actually do it. And you're right, there is no way to do it, in fact. Remember when I told you that these pieces are always together, these 4? That means that you can only exchange these pieces together. This piece can never go in any of these 4. It can only be in these 4 situations, the ones in which my fingers are on right now. They're kind of in their own plane of existence, you could say, I guess. And these are in their own plane. Of course, the centers can go wherever they want, but these always have to stay in their same plane, I guess. I mean, that's a weird way to explain it, but that's how I understood it. So now this piece obviously cannot go there, and it cannot go there either. So it could either go here or here. So we just need to use that logic and try to put it in. If we ever have a piece that's already in its side, first we need to move it to the bottom layer. So let's do that. So this piece needs to go there or there. Let's just do either one. And for it to go there, it needs to rotate about this. So let's just rotate it. That's it. I mean, we've brought this piece in, but let's worry about that later. So now we need one piece to go into its layer. And how do we do that? Let's just analyze what situation an edge corner has to be in order to go to its place. So first, let's see what happens if we have a corner with its white side down over here. Let's try to rotate it. Needs to go there. It doesn't fit. I mean, we could check for this side as well, but since it's on the opposite side, it really doesn't make a difference. It still doesn't fit. So if we ever have a corner with its white side down, we can't really solve it. We'll need to change its situation a bit and then try to solve it. So let's go to the next situation. Let's just rotate this once, where we have this white side of the corner on one of these side layers. So now let's try it. First, let's rotate it over there. See what happens. If we do it slowly, we'll see that it doesn't match. It moves there. What does move here? This red piece. And where did it start? It started over here. So whenever we hold a cube like this piece moves over there, this side. So by that logic, this side should move over there, right? I mean, I know it seems really complicated. How can this go over there? But remember, we're not turning it this way, right? We're moving it this way. So we need to see this in a different way altogether. And in that respect, holding this cube like this can actually have some advantages. We can see pieces as they move properly. So now let's try to rotate it this way now. And we see that it does match. There you go. So we need a piece to be on the side layer. And we need it to be over here. If it needs to go there, it needs to be all the way here. Like this. So that's what we need. Now for the first corner, we can just keep it wherever we want, because all these centers are so shifty. We shouldn't really listen to them. We should just start wherever we want. We can just rearrange the centers in the end. So we've formed the first thing. We've got a red over here and a green over here. So let's move on to the next piece. Let's search for one. Okay, we've got one here. Let's move into this. Now we obviously cannot have this over here. Remember what I said? It cannot be on the bottom layer. It will never go in. So let's just twist it once. Let's twist it, and now it's over here. Now this piece can either go there or there. Now we've already brought this piece in here, so it cannot be here at all. So the only option is for it to go there. Now for it to go there, it cannot be in this situation, since keeping it here means that it needs to go there. So let's just twist this once. Just twist it, and now let's move it in. There you go. So first we need to do the diagonals. It's a little bit more tough to do adjacents first. So we do opposite corners and then these two. That makes it kind of simple. So now we have this. We've got a white, blue and green, orange. We can always double check. Orange is opposite to red. So we have orange here, red here. Perfect. Blue here, green here. Perfect. Let's go into the last set. We've got one here. We've got a white, orange and green. But we've got this white on the opposite side. So let's just twist it. Oh, but wait. Look. This piece is being brought out of its place. How do we fix that? So if we move it here, it gets out. Now what do we do? How do we twist this? Now we could try to move it out of the way, but then it just comes over here. And when we try to move it again, it's stuck. So let's just undo that. So we need to twist it the right way without affecting this. Or we could twist this, affect this, solve it and then bring it back. If that makes sense. So we could technically twist this out of the way. Bring that piece there. It's not solved right now, but that's the idea. And bring this piece back. So that solves it. That keeps this in place and brings this piece where it needs to be. Of course, it's not solved right now. So now that we know that, let's try it. So this piece needs to be over here. So this needs to be twisted this way. But if we twist it this way, moving it into its place would affect the piece we just removed. So we cannot do that. We always need to move this piece away from where this piece needs to go. So if this piece needs to go, we must always twist this clockwise. If this needs to go there. But if we twist it clockwise, it gets twisted the wrong way. So what do? Well, we could just move this to a different side altogether. So let's try that. Let's move it all the way there. We've brought it completely out of the way. Now let's try to bring this piece there. So now, as you can see, it's not on the bottom layer anymore. We can just bring it into place. That's it. There you go. It's over here. That's all you need to do. So if you ever find a situation like this, it's on the bottom layer, it needs to go there, but you can't really twist it and solve it. You just do that. You just bring it completely out of the way, and then you can solve it the regular way. Just bring it around, basically. Now let's do the last one, which is this. It needs to go over here. Now I'll show you what we can do if we are allowed to twist it. Now we have this sort of situation where the piece is not exactly in its correct orientation. It needs to be there, but if we try to solve it, it doesn't go in. So we can either completely make it go around, keep doing that until it gets right, or we can just twist it in its own place. Just twist it this way. It needs to move away, right? So that's a good situation. We can just move this away, it'll get twisted right. So let's move it out of the way completely. Now let's twist this. Make sure not to twist this in its place, or else you'll just be undoing what you just did. Just move this. See, that doesn't affect this piece. Now this moves into its place and bring it back. There you go. You've solved the first layer. So in summary, whenever you find a piece like this, which is on its opposite layer, you can either twist it in this way twice, doing this. You can either keep doing the same thing over and over, bringing it out of the way, twisting it, bringing it in place. Just keep repeating until you get the right thing. You'll either have to do it once or twice, or you could try to just make it go completely around. It's over here. You could try to make it go completely around. Of course, that is kind of less useful since, once you've solved 3 of these, you can't make it go around. So I'd recommend the first option. Just keep twisting it until you get the right one. There you go. Oh, another thing you could do, one sec, is twist this one more time in the opposite direction, and it needs to go there. Just twist it twice. It comes over here. Now we can twist it just once. That makes it pretty efficient. So if you need to do it twice over here, that's just basically doing it once over here. That makes it kind of faster. Now we can just twist this here, bring this here, and bring this back. So that's how to solve the first layer. Now let's go into solving these corners and then rearranging these centers. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to solve these corners. We don't need to really rearrange them after that, since they just get solved in their own places. As I said, each corner is in its own plane, kind of. It can only be in these 4 situations. So it can't really be here or here after it's solved. And if it's over here, it's going to be twisted out of place. So as soon as we twist them all in the right places, they'll all be solved. So let's get into it. So let's first just ignore the centers altogether. Let's look at what situation we have with these corners. So the first situation we can get looks like this. Just ignore the center. It's basically where we have 2 opposite corners solved. These 2 are not. So in that situation, you just hold the skewb like this, keeping one on your lower left and the other one on your far right, like this, and such that we have one yellow facing here. So holding it this way is wrong, since there's no yellow here. We need to hold it here. And now we do the sledgehammer, the one which I showed earlier, where we move this side down, bring this up, and bring that up. So let's do that. That brings us to the next situation, which looks like this. Ignore the center again. There's no corners up. I know this looks like a worse situation, but it's not. It's actually kind of better. It's way better. So it looks like this. On one of the sides, you have 2 yellows. On the next side, you have 1 yellow here. On the next side, you have no yellows. On the last side, you have 1 yellow here. So you need to go on the side where there's 1 yellow on the left. And you do the same situation, same algorithm again. Sledgehammer. And there you go. It's solved. That's it. I know it seems like there'd be a lot more to it, but there isn't. That's it. That's the corner solved. Now let's get into solving these centers. So now I know this doesn't look jumbled. Now let's just just analyze how we can use the sledgehammer to solve these centers. So let's just use it multiple times and see what happens. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. After 3 times, we've seen that all these corners realign, but the centers are in a different situation. We've done it like this. We've switched these 2 centers and these 2 centers. Now these 2 are completely intact. But yeah, that's what we've done. Now let's just do it another 3 times and we see that it's solved completely. So now that we know that, we can in fact use this sledgehammer 3 times in different ways just to, solve it. So let's get into each situation. I'm not going to do all the situations because there are lots. In fact, like all of them are just basically utilizing the sledgehammer in different ways just to rearrange these centers. So let's get into it. So the first situation is probably the most obvious. It's where we have these 2 need to be switched and these 2 need to be switched. These 2 are normal. So in that situation, we just do the sledgehammer thrice. So let's do that. 1. Oops. That's 2. And that's 3. That solves it. Let's get into the next situation. Okay, so the next situation looks kind of like this. It's where we have this yellow and white side perfectly normal. These 4 look kind of weird. It's where these 2 are switched and these 2 are switched. So let's get into how to do that. So remember that the sledgehammer switches these 2 and these 2. Well, we could switch these 2 and these 2, and then we could switch these 2 and these 2 again. So if we switch these 2 opposite centers twice, nothing's going to happen to them. This piece is going to go here and then back. This piece is going to go here and then back. So nothing's going to happen to them. So we can just do that. So let's do that. Let's first do a sledgehammer like this. 3 of them, I mean. 2, 3. As you can see, that solves these 2, switches these 2. Let's hold it this way. As you can see, these 2 now need to be switched, and so do these 2. So let's do it 3 more times this way now. And that solves it. Let's get into the next situation. Now this is kind of a critical situation. We have this where 3 of these centers are perfectly normal, and these other 3 have all been rotated in this direction. This piece needs to go there, this piece needs to go all the way there, and this piece needs to go there. You may remember it from the 3x3 where 3 of these 3 edges need to go in a clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. I wouldn't say they're similar, they're actually pretty different, but the situation just reminds you of like that. So in this situation, here's what you need to do. We could switch these 2, which would bring this yellow here and the white here, switching these 2 of course. And then we could go here, the white would be here, we could switch them and switch these back. That would solve it. So let's just try that. So this needs to go there and that needs to go here. So let's do the sledgehammer thrice. That solves this, and now we've reached a familiar situation. So there you go. So basically in summary, if you ever give me a second, I'll just get back to that situation. Yeah, so if we ever have this situation, we just go such that this top center needs to come here, and we do 3 sledgehammers here, 3 sledgehammers here. Interesting point, you actually don't need to do it 3 times, you can just do it once and that's enough. I'll just show you. Just go here, this piece needs to go here, so let's go here, just once. That's it. Now just go to the opposite side and do it one more time. That's it. There you go. So that's all the basic situations. Now let's just try a confusing situation and let's see how to do that. Now here's our confusing situation. I'm gonna do it with you guys. Now I'm sure there's like a complicated algorithm to solve this in one shot, but let's not do that. Let's just try to go basic. So we have these 2 centers that need to be switched, these 2 centers that need to be switched. Now sledgehammer 3 times switches any 2, like this or like this. So let's just try that anywhere. So let's try to switch these 2 first. There you go. We've switched these 2 and these 2. Now let's look at what we have. These 3 are solved and these need to move in this direction. And now we've reached a familiar situation. Let's just go to the proper place. This piece needs to go there. Let's do a sledgehammer once here. Move this cube sideways to the opposite side and sledgehammer. That's it. So that's all these situations are. Now there are a lot more situations when it comes to rearranging the centers of the Skewb, but I'm not going to go into them because they're all basically utilizing the sledgehammer just in different directions, just using the tips I gave earlier. So that's how to solve the Skewb. Congratulations, you've solved it. I hope you had fun doing this.